All right, so we're gonna go. We're gonna be nice, and we're gonna do it as best your ancestors told you to. Okay, and good evening, and welcome to the Hero's Breath podcast. I'm your always lovely host, Matthew Huddle, and joining me today is the effervescent Frank Prochillo. Frank, I want to thank you for coming in today, man.
Thanks, man. Really appreciate you having me.
Thank you. All right, so first off, I want to get some basic housekeeping out of the way and say that the Hero's Breath podcast is brought to you by the Phi Center. That's PHICENTER.NYC is the website. It is integrative holistic practice. They are the only ones who will present to you as the public the MIND program, which is a proprietary neurofeedback program that I have been using for the past year. It has greatly improved my cognitive function, completely cured my depression. Yes, I'm going to use the C word in that. And so I highly recommend you all go and check that out. And of course, this podcast is also made possible by the talent of James Morano. That's JamesMorano.com. He is our editor in beard. He is the guy who takes care of the audio for us, make sure we don't completely suck, and also gets us up on the RSS feed. He is a genius tech guy. He does video, drone footage, whatever you need. He's worked on a bunch of music videos, different brands. They're not paying us, so I'm not shouting them out. And I highly recommend you go check out his website, see what he can do for you. Okay, and one more thing. If you like what you hear on the podcast and you want to support us and help us out, you can go to the description of the video for this episode on YouTube, or you can go to the website. That's heroesbreath.com, HEROSBREATH.com. It is the possessive, not the plural. And you go there and you go down to the blogs. You will find links to Amazon, same as you will in the description of the YouTube channel, for different products, anything we mention as far as books, movies, because we're always talking about the hero's journey, we're always talking about how it affects your life and the different formats it's been presented in throughout time. So if you check out any of those products, you buy them from Amazon, we get a little percentage if you use our links, and that'll help us keep the lights on. Okay, that's enough of that garbage. You, sir, you have quite an interesting array of talents. Frank Prochillo is, well, you know what? I'm going to let Frank introduce himself and tell about himself. I'm not going to keep yammering. Frank.
All right. Awesome. Again, thanks for having me here. Quite the intro
welcome
to the podcast. I like how you switched on that little narrator's voice.
Yeah. This, I mean, it's kind of authentic, but it's also kind of like the like you have a telephone voice.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I just kind of bring that in. I used to do telemarketing years ago, and then my friends and I would just get so bored, we'd just do like different voices. One of the guys would do Carl Bertanonalewski from Aqua Teen Hunger Force. It was a fucking great time, man.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But anyway, yes. Thank you for being here, Frank.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. All right. So what do I do? So I guess I'm a lawyer to start with.
Mm-hmm.
Cue the booze from the background of all the people who hate like the shark lawyers. So I did the whole what you're supposed to do path, like go to college, then go to law school, put yourself in $300,000 worth of debt to work a job that you hate, and hopefully one day be able to afford a mortgage on some house with a wife that you don't love and a bunch of nagging kids.
Oh boy, this is fucking detail. All right, go on. I'm with you.
Anyway, yeah, that was like the path that I saw in my head, almost immediately after like graduating school and like getting stuck in like that like corporate world, like suit and tie every day, being the lawyer that works for the law firm that works for the insurance company.
Mm-hmm. Boo.
Yes, noted and duly deserved. Which is why I left, and I didn't really know what I was doing when I left. I just knew that I was left. I actually, when I originally left, wasn't planning on being in law at all. I was going to get into digital marketing, which I studied a little bit, which has definitely helped me. But at one point I realized like I'm wasting this, like it's a piece of paper, it's a degree, but a law degree, there's a lot that you can use it for, which is what I started to learn. Like you can use it for like real estate, you could use it for marketing, like use it for a lot of different things. So as time went on, I lost that like stigma of hating being a lawyer, but loved the whole entrepreneurial community and like everything that had to do with it. So then I started working with like smaller businesses, like in the local area. Tough thing about that was that you don't really like make a lot of money because I didn't really like charging them a lot of money because they were like all getting started out, and I was like, I know what that feels like.
Right.
And so recently, like, have been transitioning into working with bigger startups that have that potential to actually
Explode.
explode and make some money. But for a long time, making money wasn't a priority until you realize you need a little bit of money to get by. Like, it costs money to be alive, basically.
Yeah.
So that's my like more traditional career path, I guess. There was a few like digital marketing agencies and companies that I like experimented with, and it
as far as working for or starting.
Starting.
Okay.
Starting. So I did start a. I played with the idea of a personal development brand for a little bit. I called it Success Monster, and
oh my god, I'm laughing.
I didn't love it because I felt like I wasn't being authentic because I wasn't far enough on my path to really start be talking about that stuff.
No, I'm just laughing because this is not the first personal development brand that I started, and the last one before it was called Monster Health and Fitness. I'm just fucking laughing. I'm like, holy shit! All right,
it must be something about like when you're first getting into personal development, like the idea of being a monster.
Well, actually, for me, and as I've said before on the podcast, it was more. It was here we talk about the hero's journey. We talk about those ups and downs, that full cycle, and everything that's involved with that. And for me, I was really at the part of my life where it was more dealing with the shadow self. I was at the more atonement with the father stage when I was really getting that brand going, and the one before it was more than a machine because I had really just was starting to push through that darkness, knowing how much more work I had ahead of me. So I wanted to be more than a machine. I wanted to just not be a cog in the wheel, you know. Then I was going to be a monster, like fight those demons and bring them with me, like that Hozier song. And then eventually I actually spoke to a trademark attorney who's a friend of the guys over at Mission, Pina. She's fantastic, by the way. Drop her links down below. She advised me, she said, it's too generic, and I also kind of felt, like you said, that, it wasn't authentic because I think part of me knew it was only a small phase of that journey. And then I realized, what's the biggest thing? Like, it was ironic because it was almost a year ago that I came up with the name because I was at the Long Island Retro Gaming Expo, and I had just gotten home. It was the first time I did real cosplay, and I guess it was like being around the community and like seeing all the hero motifs like everywhere, people in costume, and Hero's breath just kind of like popped out of my head, like
just from the collective subconscious,
right? Like
out of you,
like Athena coming out of Zeus's head. It was like pop, and then there it was. So all right, so you tried the personal development thing, and you said it didn't feel authentic because you didn't go through that full cycle.
Right, exactly, yeah.
So let's talk about the time scale now. Let's talk about all right, so when did you graduate law school and pass your bar and go into that whole corporate
I graduated in June of 2014.
Okay.
I got admitted for the bar in February of 2015.
Okay.
Why it takes that long? Like, I was one of the first ones of my friends who graduated to get admitted, so
bureaucracy,
dude. Like 7 months. Dude, do a whole episode on how much I hate bureaucracy.
Yeah, I'm with you on
that. Anyway, it took a while, obviously, for that process. That's just the way it works. I'd been working for that law firm for at least a year and a half before I graduated. Like, I think after my second year, so my second summer in law school, I was working.
What kind of law?
This firm. They were an insurance defense firm, which means that they basically take on.
They try not to pay.
It's going to be hard to talk about.
They try not to pay people. Is that the short?
Basically, what they do is they try not to pay out on car accident claims, personal injury claims, and that's just a whole messy world because you have people lying on both sides. And
that's true.
The whole system in place is completely broken, and it costs us a ton of money. So.
Yeah, as citizens, as taxpayers,
as taxpayers, as people who pay insurance companies, because at the end of the day, they just jack up more prices, and they're not ever really paying more money than they're taking in. So and that goes for like car insurance. I know medical insurance. It's the same. Yeah. I know the hospitals and the insurance companies have like two different sets of books than like what we see. Yeah. And I heard something. I don't know if you pay attention to this more. I heard something that the President Trump was trying to actually get that fixed.
is trying to introduce legislation or like trying to move the gears along to like kind of make that more transparent. I don't know if you heard anything about that.
I'm very purposely very far removed from that world, so I avoid like all news and everything regarding it.
Okay.
But what I will say, based on what I know, is that there's so many different ways to take advantage of how a corporation gets taxed, where you can pay the people on your board a shitload of money, and you can put all of these improvements into your buildings and your infrastructures and still report that you made zero money or negative money, and so you're not paying taxes. So it's all a numbers game on books. So.
Yeah. All right, so that's a different thing. All right, so early 2015, you took the bar exam, and then where'd you go from there? Did you stay at that same firm?
Yeah, I stayed at the same firm until I think it was September of 2016. It just wasn't the lifestyle for me. It was talking about being a cog in a machine. That's what that job was. You get spit out from the school system machine, which teaches you to be a cog in the machine. It teaches you not to question. So these are the rules, so listen to the rules. Rules for the sake of rules. My biggest pet peeve of all time.
I'm with you on that 100%.
And at one point, like, this wave of depression hit me. And it was depression was something that I've dealt with for a long time, but like a wave hit me, and I started getting into personal development probably right after I got into this job full time. So I took the bar in the summer, took like a month off, and then went full time working as an attorney. And then that's when I started getting into personal development. Actually, I think I first started getting into it because like I was like, I want to get better at picking up girls. And it's so weird. So I was like,
please tell me you started with RSD.
No, I don't even know what that is.
Real social dynamics?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, I actually talk about those pickup guys a lot because they cross over into personal development. They use pussy as like the carrot to lure guys into personal development, and I actually think it's a really, personally, like me, I lean a lot towards marketing. Like, I love marketing, and I love that, and I think it's actually a really good marketing tool. And at the core, I used to think those guys were total scumbags until I realized
some of them definitely are.
Some of them definitely are.
Like, I followed a few of them.
Yeah. And some of them have a really good heart, and they realize, how do you get guys to improve themselves? You've got to really motivate them, and pussy's a great way to motivate men.
Because they
we've been doing it for
the
thousands
hook
of years.
Like, I'll just teach you this one pickup line, and girls are going to be lining up at your door. And it's like a little bit of a bait and switch, but I think it's like
it's a good bait and
switch. It's an ethical bait and switch.
Yeah.
So you kind of get them into it, and then that world kind of breaks down a little bit because the focus of it is, for a lot of them, even like the good-hearted ones, is still getting laid and getting stuff. And it's a lot of like materialism and measuring success with like money and a big house and like a big car, and then
still very superficial.
Exactly, but like that was stuff that I never even thought about because for the longest time, like that's what I was taught to equate to success. The things that are very primal drives of collecting stuff and
having security.
Exactly. So that was the beginning of it, and then I started getting into like the reading. So I started with like When Friends Influence People, went on to some body language books, some other book that I read that was like really influential for me, but I can't remember the name.
I mean, I really could start taking stabs in the dark. I mean,
it was written by a guy who used to be a plastic surgeon.
All right, it's starting to click. I know that there's got to be somebody who's screaming right now. It's like, oh, that's, and like I know what you mean. I know who you're talking about. It's just not coming to me. It has a lot to do
with like the self.
Yeah. Well, the great thing about it, and the great thing about that field is that there's so many schools of thought. Like for me, I was in kind of a similar position. I had gotten into massage and Pilates. I wasn't going the school professional route. Never took the SATs. I went to massage school, like a massage college, got an associate's degree in that. Then eventually became a Pilates instructor, but never learned sales and marketing because for me there was always this like ethic that I was raised around, that how bad the love of money is the root of all sorts of injurious things. I heard that from the pulpit my whole life. But never realized how much marketing and capitalism allows you to serve your fellow man, like Thomas Sowell talks about.
I've had very similar, realizations.
Right.
When I got into digital marketing, that was when I first started marketing. So I started to understand it's about influence, and influence is neutral in nature. So it's whatever you want to do with it.
Right. You're just and it's it's not so much that you manipulate. It's like in pickup. Like I used to think it was about manipulation. And I mean, there's a little bit of that, but it's more about. I forgot which one of those guys it was. He was saying these girls go to the club because they have a problem. They want to get laid. They want to have companionship. They want to have something. Mm-hmm. And if you're not the guy that's going to solve their problem, somebody else will. So you might as well go there and solve the problem and be that guy and enjoy yourself. And capitalism, to a large degree, has that ethic built into it. It's like people have a problem they want solved. Like they hate getting robocalls, so somebody created a robokiller app.
Right. Yeah.
You know, because some asshole still thinks cold calling is going to work. By the way, asshole, if you're watching this.
I second that sentiment. I have the robokiller, still calls get through. It's
no
nonsense.
shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, nothing's foolproof, but I mean, why are people? I'm going to go off on a tangent. Why are people trying so hard to use a method of marketing that does not work? That people are willing to pay money to download an app to keep away from them, and you still think this is worth doing?
There's no way these companies are based in the United States. They have to be based somewhere where even if one sale out of 10,000 goes through, they're still getting a decent profit margin.
You know, I mean, I do see things. I've seen Belarus call me, Indonesia. I've gotten calls on my phone.
Do you get that thing where they kind of spoof your number? It's like
yes, I got that the other day for the first time. Yeah. It's like you must dial 1 to get your phone number back. I'm like, what?
Yeah, people like I get emails from people saying like we have records of all like the porn that you've watched, and we're gonna release those.
Yeah, I'm like, all you're gonna get is
2019.
All you're gonna get is confused, man. Forget it. All right, so 2016. Now I'm just gonna backtrack a little bit. You said you spiraled into, you started feeling this massive depression, and I mean, there's so much out there. My brain is like overloaded right now with Dr. Jordan Peterson, Dr. Marissa Peer talking about how depression is this signal that you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing.
In my personal experience, that's been the case for me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's the case for everyone. I think it probably is.
I think for a large degree, yeah.
But for example, one of the things that would trigger my depression maybe when I was in college is are the days where I would just kind of like lie around and do nothing all day. But if I just got up and moved my body or went to the gym or played some basketball, then I wouldn't have that.
Yeah.
Isolation, not communicating with people, closing yourself off from people because you don't want to show them who you really are, so you try to like put on this mask and play this role. Like all of these things were factors in mine. Mm-hmm. So, and then what happens is you kind of start latching onto these negative thoughts and placing the blame everywhere except for internally because it's way easier on your ego to just do that.
100%. I know that I mean, I know that thoroughly. I was diagnosed with dysthymia at 20, so it's like this long, slow...
What's that? I never heard of that.
It's a type of depression that the way that the doctor who diagnosed me said, it's like a long, slow dive down and a long, slow climb back up. And they're like, oh, we don't know why. Like the typical allopathic kind of, we can mask the symptoms with drugs. Right, and then I was also diagnosed with ADHD and obsessive compulsive disorder at the same time. And the doctor was like, well, we could put you on meds. I'm like, I don't want to do the meds. I do not want to do the meds. And he says... so
many friends.
They just go with that.
They turn the kids into drug addicts.
Yes.
Like they were, starting in high school and then especially in college because you just get it.
The pressure's
so
on.
Easily.
Yeah.
And the doctors were giving it out like candy. Is you get prescribed, what was it, Adderall. Mm-hmm. And then... you're like, I can't sleep, I can't like calm down. They're like, well, here's like some Xanax or something.
Ambien.
And also here's some Ambien too.
Yeah.
Like, and they were just on a cocktail of drugs all day.
Yeah.
And then it's so hypocritical, like based on what's legal and illegal in this country.
Please.
That
we're gonna get into that.
So fucking bad for you.
Yeah.
And you're putting kids on it as early as like 8 years old. Yeah. Sometimes even younger.
Yeah. And like you said, it creates this dependency cycle. So like I did more like talk therapy and I started getting more self-actualized, like looking within more, and and that's I think where when I started doing the neurofeedback, I was able to actually see more results early on because I was aware of like the little changes to the point where, like you say, that track of thoughts that like pulls you down and like you start getting depressed, then you isolate yourself, and the mental the thoughts just drag you down. that little train didn't go as far, and then it was dead ending sooner and sooner and sooner, to the point where one day something was about to set me off, and there was no train to get on. Like, my thoughts just stopped there. So again, huge thanks to the guys at the Phi Center for the Mind program. It's completely wiped that depression out. But I also think, and you said something interesting, in that when you're doing the right thing, your brain doesn't go there because you know where you have to go. So
if you pay attention to your body, right? Like,
right.
it'll give you the signals, like, that you're eating the right foods. Well, how do you feel? How much energy do you have? Like,
right.
Are you crashing at 2 o'clock every day? Maybe cut back on the coffee in the morning.
Right.
You know, all this stuff. Like, if I eat a McDonald's burger, which every once in a while, like, I'll still succumb to the temptation, and then I'll feel like shit.
Right.
I'm like, this is why I don't do this anymore.
Yeah, I had BK 2 weeks ago. I was dragging my ass around for 2 days.
But, like, those first 5 minutes when you take that first
that
bite,
euphoria hits.
it's
Boom!
like,
Your brain's lit up like a
this
Christmas
is amazing.
tree. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. All right, so you started feeling that depression in September 2016. Okay, so how long did it last? How'd you get out of it? What did you do with it?
Meditation was massive. I mean, quitting my job was a big part of that.
When you quit your job?
Yeah, so the depression came on probably a year and a half before I quit my job. And it was like trying to figure out, where is this coming from? Like, that's when I started meditation. That's when I started reading on personal development, working on my mindset. And then looking back, there were moments where, like, I got away from that stuff, and those were my worst moments, you know, my old job. So eventually, like, I built myself up and got the courage to kind of just leave. I was living in Manhattan at the time. It was like, I'm giving up my apartment, all the things that I thought I wanted, right? This apartment in the city, working at the law firm, like, I was successful.
Yeah. I'm a successful Manhattanite, high-powered businessman.
Yeah. Dude, no, you're not. Like, you're fucking miserable. Like, you're not successful. Like, you hate this shit. Like, how is that successful? So I left, and I moved into my parents' basement for, you know, probably a year and a half, and I just continued working on it all and figuring it all out.
Okay, so now we're up to the spring of 2017.
September 2016 is when I left my job.
Oh, okay, that's when you left the job. Okay, I thought that was when.
Yeah, sorry if I'm being like confusing with my timeline.
No. Timelines are hard to remember unless you have it written out. A year and a half
process of being miserable at my job, meditating, reading, learning,
all throughout that
being a part of the personal development community. That's when I started my brand, and that was the thing that I was pursuing when I quit my job. I was like, I'm quitting my job, I'm going to pursue this personal development.
So now these two pieces come together.
Right.
All right, so then you quit your job. Now, how long were you running on that brand before you're like,
So I would say about 6 months, and I went to my first, like, marketing conference.
Okay.
And I would talk about my brand, but then when people found out that I was a lawyer, they had way more questions for me. And I was like, maybe there's a way that I can start to serve these people, smaller businesses, with my abilities as a lawyer, like my knowledge as a lawyer. So I started working with them, and it was super rewarding working with those people. Those people don't have a lot of money. Like, and when you're starting a business, you're worrying about marketing, you're worried about product development, you're worrying about content. Your resources are so limited that spending money on legal is kind of hard to justify, and I get it, because you're just like, well, if they shut down my business for some illegal thing, I'm not making money anyway, so I'm probably spending more money. Like, who gives a shit? Like, I can't afford to do it right now.
Right.
And, you know, lawyers have such a bad reputation anyway, so it felt good doing that stuff, and a lot of times I would do it for free or for way below, you know, what I
value,
needed. Not even market value, because market's just what the people are willing to pay, and that was the niche that I was targeting, just wasn't ready for it yet. And I'm sure that somebody will tap into that more successfully than I did. But it just, I couldn't get it to work, and I felt like I was banging my head against the wall. I was like, I need to find some sort of balance where I can still make, like, impact and feel good about what I'm doing, but also be able to, like, support myself. But also, like, along that path, I realized that I needed way less than I used to think that I did.
So you simplified your life. You took an honest look and said, okay, I don't really need. What were you shrinking out besides the apartment? What are some of the things you were cutting down besides the apartment?
One of the big things recently has been alcohol. Like, I'm almost kind of completely done with it. I did drink a little bit last night. But
you'd be surprised how much that adds up.
It costs so much to do, right? It makes you feel so shitty, and you do so many dumb things. At least I do. Like, so many dumb things.
We all do, because you don't care. As Dr. Peterson brings out, you don't empathize with your future self. Says that's a specific part of the brain alcohol targets. It's your ability to empathize with your future self. You don't give a shit about future self. Whatever I do right now, that's that asshole's problem.
Yeah, you're not. It's like you're disassociated from who you really are, but
Right.
not in a good way. Like,
No,
you know,
never.
You know, some other drugs might make you feel, and where you'll have like positive experiences and breakthroughs, and just this very, and you also feel shitty the whole next day, and sometimes in my case, like the whole next 2 days, I was like, what the fuck is the point of this? Like, just because everybody else is doing it, so it was another thing. It's like everybody else is doing that, so I should be doing that, and it started to make no sense.
So you really have a whole very thorough breaking out of your ordinary world story going on here.
Yeah, it's just shedding layers,
Yeah.
right, of like the onion, right, trying to just peel them back and.
Thank you, Shrek. No, that's great. All right, so you started doing that. So you're going to these conferences. People are asking you more about law. You realize, hey, capitalism. I can solve a need. I can solve a problem. You know. So you started doing that, and so and now you have your own firm.
Yeah, it's my own like solo practice. I just
Okay.
like work out of my house.
Okay.
And do my best to make some money that way.
Okay.
I actually built a platform, like had a developer build a document generator tool. So I basically was like, what are all of I tried coming up with, you know, like a software as a service, right?
Mhm.
It's like, what do all these people need? What's the common denominator? Let me get like a automated service to them.
So you can automate some of the things you would have to do and have
Right.
to charge them for, so they can get that much done. Streamlines the process so that they could pay you less, but you also would have less to do for
Right.
them.
Right.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
What happened?
I basically just ran out of money.
Oh fuck.
Yeah, just funding your own business, like bootstrapping it, and trying to survive on your own. And I made some mistakes in terms of where I was putting my energy. I got lazy at certain points still.
We've done it.
And I dug myself into a bit of a hole. So that, like, it was probably like 6 months ago where I was like, all right, now you need to like just get your shit together a second time.
Right.
Like, you broke out of the old nonsense, but now you still need to make it work.
Yeah.
And so that's where the phase that I'm at. And I feel like I'm on the tail end of that phase of figuring out how to make it work, and now the implementation process.
All right. I'm actually. I just called up the cycle because I'm very visual. I got to see it again.
Yeah.
So you had the call to adventure. You had to leave the whole law corporate world.
Right.
I'm sure a year and a half. I'm sure there's some refusal of the call somewhere in there.
Oh, for sure.
Supernatural aid meeting the mentor. Did you encounter somebody in that year and a half before you decided to fuck it?
No people like in the real, not the real world, like
Right.
one-on-one like that I met. It was more of virtual mentors.
Okay. Yeah, it's the same thing. Ty Lopez talks about that all the time. Digital mentors are just as good as the real ones. All right, so cross the threshold, quit the job, get into the belly of the whale, get into marketing and personal development world. But now, then there's the world of trials, streaming your life down, changing where you got to go, meeting with the goddess. There's some sort of realization that, okay, I can do something different than what I planned on. I can go down this route and help more people. It gives you that personal fulfillment. Woman is temptress. There's always going to be this idea that, I could do this instead. There's always some temptation to take a shortcut.
Yeah.
How do those come about?
A lot of the time, it's as my friends who I went to law school with, right, who are still in that world or moving up. They're like, if you ever want to come back, like. Right. And then it's like, oh man, that's a nice salary, and like, man, that job is like, you kind of just turn your brain off, and like, but every time I start to like go towards it, there's like a little like, you're gonna be miserable, like, don't do it.
Your
like,
authenticity kicked in.
Yeah.
So then atonement with the Father, you're going to develop this app, you're going to develop this software, and there's the real world rears its ugly head. You got to make some more money. Let me ask you this. Before we get to apotheosis, do you ever think about crowdfunding? Because I will drop links like a motherfucker for you if you need.
I considered it briefly. One of the cool things that I'm doing now is that I'm working with people. As I mentioned, like some of like the startups that I'm working with are run by guys who've already done it. Right, this is like their second or third company, so. It was also kind of my way of finding some mentors. Like, let me work with you in your business and see how you do it, and I'll keep this thing on the side and see how that plays out.
And there's always a possibility of barter.
Yeah,
for you
sure.
too. You
Oh,
help the
I've
company
bartered.
out.
I bartered
I'm
for
sure you-
floats all the time.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. You bartered your ass off to do that. I've done that. I know a lot of businesses. I've been listening to Gary Vee's latest book, Ask Gary Vee.
Yeah.
And he's talking about, he's like, that's completely undervalued, and he's like, that needs to change. People need to start bartering again.
Yeah.
All right, so good. So then you've kind of got that established for yourself, like a new way of doing things.
Yeah, like I got an idea now, right? Like
Okay.
before it was like, it started off as like, fuck the old world, I'm just doing what I want, I'll figure it out. Like very ego driven, like I'm smarter than all these other people, like I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
And you get like a lot of like negative feedback, like you can't do that, you're never gonna be successful doing that.
And the more they tell you no.
Yeah, the more you're like, nah, fuck that, like I'm doing it.
Right. Yeah, okay, all right. So it sounds to me like you're really getting ready for that apotheosis. That, like you said, you think you're coming out of it, you're coming into like your own, you've got that understanding. The apotheosis, that's that moment where the hero becomes divine. The hero has all the realizations, has had the trials, has dealt with the shadow self, has dealt with that ego, that, fuck you, I'll do it anyway, and you're like, I'm going to eat some humble pie and realize I need some help here. I really think that's where you... And this is the best thing about the hero's journey is you can pick up that cycle and you can walk up to just about any person and go, and like turn the gears, and that's where you are.
I've never seen that little circle before.
Yeah, this is actually, I keep this as my wall.
circle?
Yeah. This is, I'm not going to show it to the screen, but this is my wallpaper. It is just, somebody compared it to like being in the design world.
Okay.
They just put like Campbell's analysis of the hero's journey against theirs, and this actually is kind of where I got my logo from. You can see that up there on that shirt.
Oh, cool.
My girlfriend made that shirt for me, and yeah, that's my company logo. It's basically this diagram, this threefold diagram, because there's separation, initiation, and return. Those are the three main acts: Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. Act 2 is where most of the action and the drama and the realizations and all that stuff happens. So basically what I was just talking this out with you, I was just mapping it out and I was just following it around. And apotheosis, that's where you get that realization. That's where I realized my company name, my company brand, my company mission, boom, it hit me like a ton of bricks. And it's like Neo waking up again after Trinity kissed him, and now he's like, he can stop bullets and all that shit. Like that's that moment. And it sounds to me like you're really on the cusp of that. You're starting to get that. You just had that atonement with the Father. That's where you eat humble pie. That's where Luke got his hand cut off. Like that's all that stuff. The ultimate boon is where the theory meets the road. That's where you actually have to get up and fight the bad guy. You have to fight Darth Vader. You have to deal with you have to confront Agent Smith. You have to get into the actual application process. You have to make the app. You have to get the clients, and that's where you'll continue to grow on your journey. Then after that, there's refusal of the return, because you have to go back to your ordinary world. That's what the hero does. The hero has, I can see it in his eyes, he's just like, oh no!
It makes sense though, like,
right?
I've listened to, especially some people who speak on consciousness a lot, right? And they're like, when you have this realization of like consciousness and how we're all connected and how we have to just basically stop being assholes to each other, there's that everyone wants to go like live with the hippies or just like get out of the city and like just go be away from people and surround themselves with only like the people who will quote unquote like get it. And the message that I've been hearing a lot is like, no, like you have to go in with all the negativity and you have to kind of be like the positive force that fights against it head on, instead of just going and living on a farm somewhere and just fucking off.
Right. It's easy to run away. And I'll tell you, I left a world of strict religiousness and collectivism. And I didn't realize the second part. I didn't realize collectivism was the big thing I had gotten away from. I thought it was just like my religion, my family's religion growing up. And I'm just like, oh fuck, when I realized that, I'm like, fuck, I can't return to this. These people wouldn't believe Jesus if he came down to him again, and said anything vaguely different than what was already in the Bible. So I'm like, fuck, what do I do? And then I realized, no, it was collectivism in general. Is this idea that that hard work and meritocracy is like a fairy tale of the 1%. This idea, and it seems to be very big in our culture, is that like, the hippies and like the peaceniks are all the good people, and anyone who says, well, there's resources and they have value, that's evil, like capitalist. So I have to go like kind of back to that. You know, I have to go back to people who are where I was 4 years ago, on my ex-wife's couch. In fact, this couch, I brought it from my old apartment with my ex-wife, and it's like a little reminder for myself. And this shitty old couch I was sleeping on, and I want to reach back to all the people who just didn't realize they can get up and they can do things and they can embrace the hard work and the trials. Like the Marines say, you know, embrace the suck. You know, I learned to love the process and the pain and the passion. And there's a lot of that world that you came out of too. And so yeah, like you say, maybe you can't, you know, convince everybody to walk out of their ivory towers in Manhattan and come on down and, like, you know, let's go sing Kumbaya. But there is something of that hard work, that powerful work ethic, that real American Main Street that you are now almost in a way bringing back towards that.
Yeah, it's so weird though in Manhattan, isn't it? Because some people,
it's a world unto itself.
Some people take that, like the hard work, and just take it too far. And it's just like to the point where they're just putting everybody down and climbing on top of like the bodies that they leave in their wake.
Yeah, and so, but that's the thing. And let me pull this back up for you. Say, so after you decide not to, you know, you pass the refusal to return, you just go through the magic flight. That refusal to return, magic flight, and rescue from without, these are all optional. This is like somebody else pulling you, you know, in. This is Gandalf coming down with the eagles to save the hobbits off Mount Doom, that kind of thing. Then you cross the return threshold, you return back to your ordinary world. Then there's the master of both worlds. And then there's the freedom to live. That's like the final
so that's
segment.
Like at the end of the Matrix, like Neo being able to fly around in the Matrix. And
exactly.
Control.
You know, that's Jake Sully at the end of Avatar. He's a human living in in a Na'vi body. It's that blending of the new and the old. Your old world that you came from, then you learned all these great, you know, more spiritual things and you know, tools of like how to deal with your consciousness. You got to bring that back to that corporate world, but without letting it consume you. That's what you become the master of both worlds at. I'm predicting your future. I'm predicting your future because we've done this for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. We've done it the same way. We've told the same story because it's the same blueprint every man has to live. And man, woman, overripe avocado, whatever. But that's what we have to do when we want to get out and actually do something with our lives. We have to accept that there's going to be pain, heartache, and sorrow. And it sounds like you've already kind of like...
This feels like a therapy session now. Like, what did I walk into here?
But it's like I'm reflecting off of this for the audience. Like I want to make sure that this case is clearly known. Like, you're not some big, massive, successful dude. You know,
not yet. Maybe one day. Maybe I can come talk to you. You know,
fuck that maybe shit, man. You got a good vibe. Like, we met. The counter's running at like 39 minutes. We met maybe 45 minutes ago. But we had a mutual friend, you know, who's like, you know, you definitely got to meet. And I could see it in you, man. You got like the nice balance of that, like nice chill mentality. Not gonna let it consume you. You know, like the corporate shit consume you. But you're not gonna get walked down either. You clearly fought some battles here.
Yeah, a few, I guess.
It seems to me like you got this handled, man.
I appreciate that, man.
Now, before we go, because I'm running out of time, really quick. You're getting involved in, you said, like, different ventures. You want to talk about any of them now?
Yeah, there's a few that I'm interested in, very much so. Particularly with, like, psychedelics. It seems to be, like, the hot topic on the street. So,
CBD's yesterday, so.
Yeah, you know, not doing anything illegal, you know, not yet, at least. I'm a lawyer, I'm definitely not doing anything illegal. But, yeah, I've had certain experiences in places where it's legal to do. Right. And a lot of the breakthroughs that I've had have been, if not a direct result from it, some of them definitely direct results, some of them are indirect results. A lot of them have been allowing me to have better understandings of people like Jordan Peterson and what they're talking about.
Made your mind more malleable in a sense, or
just deeper understandings. Definitely. I've always been a little bit very open-minded, but it really took the edge off of some of my old viewpoints that were created. And you know, my dad was super conservative. Like Donald Trump is his favorite person in the whole world, and you know, whatever you think about, you know, Donald Trump, if he's your favorite person in the whole world, I think if any president's your favorite person in the whole world, I think that you're too far in that political game. Yeah. And he was super into that political game. He didn't really understand that it was a game. It was like a life or death situation for him. So growing up with someone like that as your father is going to, you know, instill some worldviews that are poor.
Right.
So using those to go through that, helping me understand and recognizing what depression and anxiety really are, having that, like, those aren't you, they're just, you know, things that you feel or things that you think, and you have control, understanding the choices that we have.
You pulled out of yourself and got to see things from a higher perspective.
And you know, you have such, like, visual experiences on these substances that sometimes you're communicating with something that is greater than you know, your human self.
Everybody reports the same thing. It's not a hallucination.
Yeah. And then after you read, like, the research that goes on at some place like Johns Hopkins University, it's like, I look at it. I like to look at it two different ways, right? The first is if we took all the drugs, right, took all of them, put them all on the table, and based on what we know right now, and made a brand new distinction on which ones are going to be legal and which ones are going to be illegal, and we took some very logical people that weren't stuck to, you know, previous notions of the past that are probably not true.
Slate. Yeah.
What's legal and what's not legal would be completely different.
Right.
If you look at what Schedule 1 drug really means, it means that it's something that has absolutely zero potential for medical benefit, which, if you look at the objective scientific research, is patently not true. Now, we have to spend decades and tens of millions of dollars trying to fix that mistake. Is kind of ridiculous. And then the other thing is if you just look objectively, you took the names of the drugs off of the research behind them and decided, all right, we're not going to name these drugs, you're not going to know what they are, and you're going to go through and decide based on, you know, what the symptoms are, how addictive they are, what medical results they would have, what ones are going to be legal and illegal. Again, they would be completely different. Alcohol and tobacco would probably not be legal.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I think make it all legal, and that's just who I am. I think let the people decide what they want to do, and you kind of give them the correct information and guide them through and give them the resources to go through it, and they're going to turn out okay on the other side. So it's kind of ridiculous. But anyway, the power of those substances, especially for what we're dealing right now as a society, depression that everyone's going through, this crazy anxiety, people using fear-based tactics to gain power. There's a reason why, like, the establishment is against these things, because it's a threat to their status quo of how they obtain and hold on to their power.
All right, see, now you sound like a dirty hippie.
Hey, man, I said I'm part hippie, part capitalist.
All the best parts, I would say, man. Honestly, I mean that. I would like to table this discussion for another time. I want to carry actually on in this track. I feel like you have a lot more to say. We just kind of covered the basics, talked more about your story, which is really the big thing I try to carry on to the audience, is to say, look, you know, we've all got a story. Like, you know, Frank's got a different story than your, you know, somebody else is going to have. But what you represent is somebody who's willing to take on the challenges, who's already eaten some humble pie, who knows that there's more to come, and that as soon as you get up to that point, you take a breath. Oh, that's amazing. All right, let's do it again, and again, and again, and again. And it seems to me like you really got that in your bones, man. So, again, thank you so much for coming by. Really appreciate you having me.
Great talk.
Great, definitely, man. We will table this. We will have Frank back on, because there is a shit ton more there under the hood. And again, thank you so much, man. So PhiCenter.nyc, go check out our sponsor. Check out James Morano, especially if you need his services, especially if you are a startup and you need legal services. We have Frank Prochillo. I'm going to leave all his website down below in the description and on the blog. So go check him out as well. If you need his services, definitely check him out. And of course, if you'd like to support Heroes Breath, go to the description on the YouTube channel here, and you will find links to any materials that we might have even obliquely mentioned. Links to them will be down below, so you can go buy that and help us all. All right, so from Heroes Breath, this is Matt.
Frank.
Reminding you to expect nothing and earn everything. Take care, everybody.
I like that.
That's my slogan.